Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Why Are These Guys So Shitty? And What Can We Do About It? I'm Xander Schultz, co founder of Defiance. I'm driving for Miles Taylor today, but we've got the amazing Maritza Giorgio with us. Tonight, we're looking at a pattern. When leaders become consumed by paranoia, they stop seeing criticism as a part of democracy and they start seeing enemies everywhere. Reporters become suspects, election officials become conspirators, survivors become inconveniences. Instead of using the power of the government to solve problems, they use it to chase perceived enemies. That's exactly what we're seeing today. The Justice Department is seizing phones from people connected to reporting on Donald Trump's Qatar jet. Tonight, Trump is expected to deliver yet another speech centered on disproven election conspiracies. And later, we'll speak with journalist Carly Riley, about Todd Blanche's confirmation hearing, where Epstein survivors say they once again are being pushed aside while those in power protect one another. I'm going to bring on my co-host today, Maritza Giorgio. Maritza, how you doing?
Hey, Xander, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. This is the point in the show before we get into the first story. We say, if this is your first time here, you need to you need to subscribe. It's fun. The rest of the internet's a freaking nightmare. It's scary stuff everywhere. It's scary
It
stuff
is.
everywhere.
I've been looking around today. It is a nightmare.
Yeah, we do it too. Don't feel bad about it. We're all doom scrolling, but it doesn't feel good. And when you come here, we tell you some of the scary stuff, but then we try to help you know what you can do to fight back. We are in this fight. This whole thing exists to fight back. I don't have my neon on behind me. If you weren't sure who we are already,
Come on, Xander.
Get the Defiance sign going. And we're off to the races. So subscribe. I was told that when I say the word subscribe, the button lights up on YouTube. So I'm saying it. Subscribe.
Ooh.
All right. Moving on. If you want to understand the mindset inside this White House, this story is a pretty good place to start. As we saw over the weekend, Donald Trump was furious over reporting about his new Air Force One. After the New York Times reported on security concerns surrounding the Qatari jet, the Justice Department subpoenaed 4 New York Times reporters in an effort to identify who leaked the information. But now we're learning the administration didn't stop with the journalists. According to new reporting from both the New York Times and CNN, investigators have also been contacting government officials across multiple agencies, asking some to hand over their cell phones as part of the leak investigation. Kash Patel was said to have canceled a planned trip to Chicago and spent roughly 7 hours inside the West Wing alongside Chief of Staff Susie Wiles in what one source called a war room. I don't know, Maritza. You think this is the best use of the FBI director's time?
I think it's bizarre, but not surprising, right? I mean, they spend their time going after seashell posts and reflecting pool gashes that don't exist and this new leak investigation. I mean, it's just, they're just so consumed with any perceived wrong against them instead of actually trying to make the lives better of the American people.
Yeah, it's surprising anytime we compare it to the intentions of these institutions, right? If you look at maybe historically how they've been used at times, what their intentions are, it's surprising. They're incredibly consistent in how they wield them, though. How they demand loyalty, how they punish disloyalty, and their willingness to warp institutions as much as they can to suit those needs. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I will say this. I mean, It was probably considered more business than that time he went to the locker room and shotgunned beers.
I
think it was probably fit more into duties as assigned.
I think he had his wide-eyed work face on, that the owl work face that he gets going in that meeting. After the meeting, investigators reportedly asked government officials to hand over their phones and sought information from officials across multiple agencies who traveled with Trump or had a role in the trip. All of this on the grounds of the White House, but not everyone inside the Fed was willing to go along with the shakedown. Ironically, one of the key agencies caught up in this probe is the very agency that reportedly identified the security concerns in the first place, the Secret Service. And according to the New York Times, once the probe began, the agency directed its employees that if outside investigators showed up asking for information or asking to take their phones, do not simply comply. Contact our agency's lawyers immediately. Maritza, is that a good sign that the Secret Service is worried about the president directing them?
No, and you know, the thing is this. I believe in treating people well, being a good person just for the sake of doing that. And I also think when I see people, treating others a certain way, especially others who really help you do your job, and in this case, stay alive, maybe you shouldn't do that. So if it's me, I'm just not going to try to poke at the Secret Service. Like, if they've already saved my life numerous times, I'm just not going to poke that bear. I'm just going to say, hey, thanks for doing your job. I think it's kind of wild. And also, I've said this a lot in my career as a journalist. If you are a public figure or a politician and you don't want people to write about something, then don't do it.
Yeah, it's interesting that all this, also the security concern, comes out of a leak that they had a security concern, what sounds like a legitimate security concern,
right,
with the Air Force, the new Air Force One given to them by the Qatari government. And it
all comes back to the. Oh, sorry, Xander. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What's it come back to?
It all comes back to this idea that this is why you don't take a plane from a foreign government to use as the president's aircraft. This is why you don't do this, because there might be security concerns. This was not a shock. Everybody who knew anything about Air Force One and security warned about the potential for disaster here as far as breaches in security. And so if you don't want this to be a problem that prohibits you from taking this plane back from, where was he? Turkey? Back from Turkey, then don't take the plane to begin with. And definitely figure out that the sooner you take the off-ramp, the better. Don't get up on the world stage and make up a lie about why you're not taking it back. Come on, man. Like, these are just, this is stuff I teach my 14-year-old.
You know what it reminds me a little of? This is like, when you're in a fight with your significant other and you're wrong. And so you got to pivot to like the tone of the conversation. I'm not proud that I've done this. It's like, I don't like how you're talking about this because you're done.
Oh, right? You're revealing your hand here. You're revealing your card that you play whenever you're wrong.
This is me at my absolute worst, but I will admit it's happened from time to time. They've institutionalized that play. That is their go-to move now. Every time they get in trouble.
Deflect. And just the defensive nature of it all. Like, have you ever, I don't know if I've ever heard him say, like, yeah, that was a bad move. Never. Not ever.
No, we shouldn't be holding our breath for that. Reflection, it's not going to happen.
But reflecting pool. Sorry. I was going to try
not
to
going to
make
happen
it
in the reflecting pool either.
It didn't work.
They actually made the reflecting pool not have reflection either. They don't like reflection in any platform. All right. No. Let's move on to another area where Trump's paranoia appears to be boiling over. This time, it's our elections, or rather the fact that the president has carved out a rare primetime address from the White House tonight, from the White House tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern to revisit the thing that's on all of our minds every day of the week, the 2020 election, of course. Defiance will be live at 9 tonight, fact-checking the speech in real time. So we hope you'll join us. Now, the White House has revealed very little about what the president plans to announce tonight, but there are people who aren't just skeptical, they're worried. Not because of the politics, because of what this means for our national security and for Americans' confidence in our elections. Our very own Miles Taylor was on Stephanie Roulet's show this morning, and after hearing on good authority that Trump may actually be watching, he decided to speak directly to the president.
Tell you two reasons, all right? And if the president's listening, this message is to him. If you care about national security, this is bad for national security. But if you don't care about that, it's bad for you politically. I'll tell you about that one in a second. Let me tell you from a national security standpoint. By going out there and declassifying information that the CIA and other agencies apparently want to keep secret, you may expose sources and methods. You may put our country in danger by putting that information out there. But also, you are emboldening our adversaries. You are showing them that they don't have to hack into our voting machines to upend our politics. All they have to do is reach their hand into our country, and they can destabilize the political system if you go out there and inflate their efforts as something bigger than they were. Mr. President, you are doing their job for them. But if you don't care about that, if that's fine with you, then I'll tell you politically why this is bad for you. Because if you make this case tonight that a country did something that they didn't actually do, that they stole an election from you that wasn't stolen, even your own supporters will think you look like a loser. They will think you look like a sore loser. And in politics, no one wants to associate with the loser. So if you're worried about the vibes in the MAGA movement, the worst thing you can do for the vibes is what you're preparing to do tonight, Mr. President. I wouldn't do it.
Ooh.
I like that. I like Miles just chastising the president. We should do a direct to the president segment on Defiance on a daily basis. That was kind of nice.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the president does listen into some of those MS Now shows. I think Stephanie Ruhl's show is one of them sometimes. I mean, he's always watching TV. I don't know how he gets anything else done. Maybe there's something to say about that. But I think Miles brings up this really great point, and it's just basically opening up a playbook for how to continue to sow doubt and into our election systems that just continuously we are losing faith and trust in our election systems on both sides of the aisle, right? But this brings up this idea that I talked to election expert David Becker about recently. And he said he doesn't have concerns about this upcoming election, that the biggest concern he has is the American psyche and the psychological warfare taking place. Because really, when you break down all of the safeguards in place at each state level and the local levels, that it's impossible for the national government to take over every single election system. But they can get in the minds of the people. And they can sow doubt and cause people to to not trust the system. And also with all of the threats of sending agents and ICE and other federal agents to the polls, keep certain voting blocks away. So yeah, I think Miles makes a fabulous point here.
Yeah, a lot of voter intimidation or even just terrorist efforts, like you think about the lynchings that happen in America, the point of it is to intimidate everyone or confuse everyone. It's not just about the harm they can directly inflict. It changes the risk reward factor. And when you're one voter among 330 million, your risk tolerance could be pretty low depending on how invested in the system you're in. And the other thing they'll say is very effective about this is if you're watching from the outside. I had my childhood best friend over this week, and he's very much on the outside. He's not plugged in at all. And he has this sense that the whole space is contested and volatile. It's not that he's even paying attention or believes Trump in any way, shape, or form. He lives in the Bay Area. He's a progressive guy, but he's backed away from the space because there's a feeling that it's contested. There's a feeling that it's toxic, and that does a number on the American psyche in general. There's a lot of people who have just taken a step back because it feels like a space that is volatile to be in and contested. It reminds me a little bit of the climate change debates that we were having around the turn of the century. Where really the scientific community was in complete alignment about what's going on, but there was this energy, this intense energy around it that made a lot of people step away and made it let's not talk about it at the dinner table discussion.
Right, taboo. Yeah, but that, by the way, that's still happening in some circles. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of TV meteorologists who get a lot of hate mail still when they talk about climate change. It's wild.
I forgot you're in the meteorologist community. You've inherited the meteorologist community.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they're frustrated. All right. Well, Miles, turns out, is not alone on this. According to Politico, some of his former Republican compatriots are quietly dreading what Trump is about to say tonight. One former Trump administration official told the outlet people around the president are, quote, scared shitless. They believe that Trump should be using the time to tout economic victories, including a recent short drop in oil prices and inflation. They also seem to be increasingly worried, not just about what the speech holds, but Trump's keenness to go off book. That's a funny way of putting it. He's keenness to go off book.
Yeah.
Lives off book. Former Trump advisor Steve Cortez warned that while this may energize the MAGA base, persuadable voters hear another speech about the last election as, quote, sour grapes. Marisa, what do you think?
Oh, there's so much I want to say right now, but I don't want to make Mercedes mad because of time. But okay. First of all, I don't know.
We live in fear of Mercedes here at Defiance.
That's right. She's our president. No, sorry, Mercedes. That's a burn. Sick burn. Okay. First of all, like talking about going off book or off script. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if we're talking about this whole teleprompter scandal today, but the White House teleprompter operator basically made like allegedly made six figures off of betting on Kalshi based on what he thought the president was going to say. And he literally has the script. Okay. But
that's part of me is, I missed that story.
Part of me is kind of like, this guy deserves like an extra bonus because that must be the worst teleprompter job in the history of teleprompter jobs because you will not ever be able to track what he's saying. Okay. But my other point about this is, yeah, people are sick of hearing about this. You are the president of the United States. You won this time around. Like, where are the other Republicans who won in 2020? Why are their races fine? How come their races are not contested? And they were totally legit and they won, but this is the one that we're just going to focus on. And to my friend who I've already mentioned, David Becker's point, it's just incredible that in 2020, when this election took place, when Trump was in office and he was in control of the executive branch, that somehow the Democrats managed to steal that election, but they failed so miserably to do it in 2024 when Joe Biden was in office. If they were so great at stealing the election in 2020, why didn't they do it again?
Sometimes I actually spent a lot today on Substack. I was just listening to the various lives. And I think a mistake we make is believing these guys are dumb and they're being earnest in what they're doing. Like, I think this assessment is actually dead on, that it might energize the MAGA base. I'm just want to read this part again. But persuadable voters might hear another speech about the last election as, quote, sour grapes. He has shown in many ways he's assuming he's going to legitimately lose these midterms, and he's going to need certain things to happen if that happens. One of them is an energized extremist base that he can whip up and do things for him. And so I don't think that assessment's necessarily wrong. I think we've seen a bunch of things recently that have told us this isn't really how someone who's trying to win a majority behaves. This is someone who's trying to whip up a frenzied minority as their enforcers. Hey, Miles Taylor, what's going on, brother?
Surprise. Andrew's talking about whipping up a frenzy. So I was like, I got to come in. Let's whip it up.
What's up, bro? Good to see you,
bring
man.
up a really good point, though, Xander. I'm going to say this, and then I want to hear your take, both of you, and actually in the chat, because you bring up a great point in that, yeah, it's going to rile up his base. We know there are people within MAGA who have left. Do we know that anybody is still joining? Is there is MAGA at all growing at all, or is it just like this diminishing population? Has anybody heard of anybody switching over to MAGA in the last year? Like, yes.
Miles got a soundboard yesterday.
I don't think so.
I don't know where they'd recruit from after, like, they've already recruited the Proud Boys and hired them as their like ICE agents. I don't know where else.
Russia, guys, they're recruiting from Russia. They're like,
people.
You got a bunch of Russians that are upset with Vladimir Putin. He didn't play out as a despot that worked for them, and so that's where they're going to get more MAGA people. I mean, I think the answer is self-evident, Maritza, which is that they are getting their butts kicked in the polls. The numbers are terrible. The MAGA movement is suffering so badly. I love it that before I jumped on, I was just on with our friend Nicole Wallace, and I was looking at the headlines. There were 3 different stories I saw of Republicans saying that they're nervous about Trump's remarks tonight. Republicans on Capitol Hill saying they're, quote, scared shitless about what he's going to say. Not because they think the president's going to roll out some bombshell information that's going to change the election, but because they're stressed out that the president keeps doing this sore loser shtick. Stop talking about how you lost the 2020 election. Everyone knows you lost the 2020 election. No one thinks it was a conspiracy. You're making us all look like losers. Please shut the fuck up. That's what they're saying to the president of the United States. He is not listening. He cannot be persuaded. He's going to embarrass himself again tonight because the people who've seen these underlying documents, the people who've briefed him on these issues, like me, know that there's no story there. There's no story there. And we're going to deflate his little balloon the moment he tries to blow it up tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern.
It's interesting. Like they have to have the persecution narrative, no matter how much they are winning. They have all the branches of government. He stacked the Supreme Court for a decade plus, and it's still him being treated unfairly. All right, moving on. Unsurprisingly, the White House, of course, tells a very different story. Caroline Leavitt says Americans are going to be shocked and relieved. Shocked and relieved. I've never even experienced those emotions simultaneously, Caroline, by what the president reveals tonight. Now, if that's true, CNN's Caitlin Collins asked what I think is the most obvious question anyone could ask. Let's take a look.
Same time.
Thank you, Caroline. Sure. Regarding the president's speech tonight, he's been in office over 540 days now. If what he says is tonight is backed up by evidence, why hasn't anyone been charged?
Well, he hasn't revealed it yet. He hasn't declassified the documents yet, and you will see what he says tonight, and then we'll move forward appropriately from there.
Tonight from the Justice Department?
I don't speak on behalf of the Justice Department, Caitlin. You know that. Rachel,
By evidence, will there be charges?
you'll have to ask the Justice Department. I don't charge people. I just speak on behalf of the president. Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline.
Amazing that none of what he's going to talk about has ever been brought up in the, I don't know, more than 60 cases before judges over this 2020 election, if they have all this proof. I mean, I've been hearing Mike Lindell talk about the proof forever, and I think that guy's going to come through.
Guys, it's even better than that. Here, I had to find the quote. I think in the same press conference, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says, what's revealed tonight, quote, will shock you if you have an honest eye listening to the president. Can your eyes, if your eyes can hear you guys, I'll be shocked by that. And so I wrote that if your ears are watching closely, you will be doubly stunned. I love when they make cell phones like that, when they say, if your eyes are listening, they're like basically saying, get ready to digest lies. The lies are coming in.
That's what happens when you drink bleach.
This is what happens when you drink. I think they're getting nervous, you guys. I think they're getting very nervous because they felt like when they leaked this earlier this week that the president was going to have bombshell revelations, they didn't expect so many people who have worked on these issues in the past to take to the airwaves and say, there actually isn't anything there. And by the way, if these are bombshell revelations, they've just self-owned in like 20 different ways. Namely, the fact that Donald Trump was the freaking president when all of this went down. And by the way, if he says the intelligence community kept the information from him, which is what some people have apparently been told in his orbit, well, it was his guy running the intelligence community. John Ratcliffe was the director of national intelligence. Now he is his CIA director. And you add on to that, look at what Donald Trump's own attorney general, Bill Barr, told the January 6th Select Committee that they didn't have any evidence that the election was stolen, that he kept getting fed bullshit that he was told to go out there to defend. We all know where this started. This all started with the president lost, and he didn't like that he lost. So he started to say it was stolen. And 6 years later, it's taken him 6 years to find a culprit. I want to ask the president, how do you explain that, sir? How do you explain that you knew? You knew in your gut it was stolen, but you didn't know how or by who, but now you found the person. How do you explain that? Was it just lucky that you stumbled upon the culprit of the crime that you said was committed, even though there was no evidence of the crime? How did this all happen? It's just going to be embarrassing for him from head to toe tonight.
Everyone knows you save your best evidence for the 65th trial. That's when you really bring it out. All right. So there's another piece of reporting that dropped today that I think deserves a lot more attention. According to MS Now, while the rest of the country has been left wondering what Trump is going to announce tonight, some people already got a preview. The White House reportedly hosted roughly 24 election denial activists earlier this week. Good. The meeting was organized by conservative lawyer Cleta Mitchell, who helped lead Trump's effort to overturn the 2020 election. It's just a nightmare room, it sounds like. Attendees were reportedly required to sign non-disclosure agreements and told the meeting was confidential. But here's the funny part. One attendee later told members on his own organization that there actually wasn't much new. According to a recording obtained by MS Now, he said the briefing was, quote, basically all the media reporting that John Solomon and others have already done.
Wait, can I just say, I love how little Donald Trump's own people respect him, that they go into a meeting where they sign NDAs and then immediately leak that story out, not just to anyone. They didn't leak it to Fox News. They leaked it to fucking MS Now. That's how little they respect him.
Well, but in fairness, Von Hilliard is one of my friends and amazing. So, I get why.
I love MS Now, but I'm saying MS Now isn't exactly considered pro MAGA and pro Trump. Right? So these people that they think are pro MAGA and pro Trump are coming into a room, signing NDAs, promptly leaking it to the network that is doing the most to hold Donald Trump accountable. And this is on top of the fact that Donald Trump last Friday launches a leak probe into his own staff for embarrassing him about his Qatari jet. And then the probe into the leak probe ends up getting leaked to the media. These folks do not take Donald Trump seriously anymore. So look, I'm amazed by that, although I'm not amazed that the attendees at that meeting didn't hear anything new, and the American people aren't going to hear anything new tonight either.
Yeah, I'm just guessing, like, if you have a really fabulous team and everyone gets along and it's just like good morale and kumbaya, people aren't like racing out the door to go leak everything you said. And I think about you, Miles. I consider you like chief leaker, chief whistleblower.
That's what we call him. Internally, that's his nickname, Chief Leaker.
Leaky. They call him Lakey. If telling the truth about the president's misconduct and his sad mental state is a leak, sign me up, baby. Leaker number one. The types of things you need to know about as the American people, as the voters, include whether your president of the United States is regularly ordering his people to do illegal things. And that's, I think, Maritza, I'm glad you mentioned this topic, because that's where Donald Trump is going to have a really, really hard time here. He wants to go after his enemies under the rubric of leaks. Now, there are bad leaks. You can't go out there and reveal classified national security secrets, but the leaks he wants to go after a lot of his adversaries for, he's going to give them more airtime to talk about the things that they leaked about his misconduct, his unfitness for office, if he keeps going after them for that.
And I'll move on, Mercedes, but one last thing. I don't know if you guys think about the like most embarrassing thing you've ever done or things that suck that you've done. And I don't sit around and go talk to, like, I don't keep bringing them up. I don't keep bringing them up to all my friends. Like, hey, remember that really horribly embarrassing? Let's talk about that again. Woo. Like, I move on.
I will say this. This is what happens when you reset. These guys are not ideological. They're sociopaths that are finding ways to make it in society, make it big, and they'll happily, tout a lie if that means they'll grow, and they'll happily run to a rival news station if that suits them as well. I keep comparing this to my rewatch of The Sopranos. You know who rats on the mob the most? The mob. The mob rats on the mobs the most to save their own skin because they're immoral people. That's the long and the short of it.
Okay, Mercedes, I promise we're moving on now. So I'm going to take this section, Xander. While the White House spent today hyping up this primetime speech about an election that happened, 6 years ago, the Senate again focused on something much more current That's Todd Blanche, Trump's nominee to become Attorney General, and he's acting Attorney General right now.
Todd Carte Blanche. Todd Carte Blanche. Frankly, it didn't really go very well. Yesterday, senators spent much of Blanche's confirmation hearing pressing him over his handling of the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. And today, that scrutiny only intensified. This is someone I was watching closely. I know you guys were too. Republican Senator Tom Tillis. He threw Blanche something of a curveball. And it really kind of took a lot of us by surprise based on the questioning yesterday. But according to the New York Times, and he said this actually in the hearing today, Tillis said that he will not support Blanche's nomination out of committee unless Blanche personally meets with Epstein survivors before the committee votes. So it might sound like a low bar just to have a meeting, but until today, Blanche had not been willing to commit to doing that. And friend of the show here, friend of ours, Scott McFarlane, actually asked him yesterday whether he would meet with survivors. Let's listen.
Attorney General, you going to meet with the Epstein survivors while you're here, sir? Mr. Blanche, any interest in meeting with the Epstein survivors down the hall?
How do you think it went?
Did you add crickets or did Scott add crickets?
Scott did, but I'm pressing the cricket button right now. I got a cricket button.
Oh my gosh, these sound.
Why does Todd Blanche look like the Penguin from the Batman movie in the 90s when he walks?
Yeah.
His posture. Replay that. Just. I don't know if we can kill audio. Just play it with the audio. Why does he watch him walk down? I know this is a big digression, but I'm not in the driver's seat today.
You know what? I have a thesis around this, Miles.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think not only when you join the Trump administration do you kind of lose some of your morality, but you start de-evolving. He's become the step right before man on the 4 steps. The monkey.
Back up there, Mercedes. Where'd that go? I gotta see Todd Blanche walking. He looks like
he's literally hiding. He's literally hiding
over like a villain. Why do these guys look at it? Why do they have to act like villains too? You already are.
Not a bad back.
You don't have to do the villain pose.
No, he's hiding. He's literally hiding from responsibility.
Yeah, he's been so busy ducking for cover. He's stuck.
Yes.
He's stuck right there. Okay,
Kim Sherwood says you lose your spine. That's the best line. Kim, you beat us.
She
wins. Won the internet today. Good job, Kim.
That wins. But this isn't the most troubling thing that Blanche said yesterday, because we weren't really surprised by that. When senators asked him about Epstein's trafficking operation and whether there were other people who benefited from it, Blanche appeared to suggest that the women and girls were trafficked only to Jeffrey Epstein. Let's listen to that clip.
Other than to himself. Who, if anyone else, did Mr. Epstein traffic young women to?
There's from what we learned, from what we know. So when we know, what's in the FBI files and what's in the DOJ files, we did not identify evidence. And by we, I mean career prosecutors, not me, not my leadership, but career prosecutors in New York and career prosecutors in Florida who worked this case hard, did identify other participants, some of whom, as has been discussed, were also victims themselves of Mr. Epstein. But we did not have evidence, as of now, of other men who were that were trafficked, that Epstein helped traffic. That is.
Yeah, it must be why they kept blocking out all those names and emails in the files. So this answer matters because it fundamentally changes how you understand the case, right? If Epstein acted alone, that's it. That's the end. The story ends. He's dead. It's over. If there was a broader network of recruiters, enablers, and accomplices, there are still a whole lot of unanswered questions. And today, Epstein survivor, Danny Bensky, came before the committee to explain exactly why survivors reject this framing from Todd Blanche.
The redactions are not the only problem with Todd Blanche's nomination. Todd Blanche has never attempted to listen to us, the crime victims. Survivors in this room repeatedly asked to meet with Todd Blanche through multiple channels. He never responded. Yesterday, he said he would meet with us, with our attorneys, if they were present. But let's be clear, that was the first time that was ever communicated to us before yesterday. He simply ignored us for the last 8 months. He's been radio silent, and the silence was deafening. Crime victims deserve better from the nation's highest level of law enforcement officials. We deserve to be heard directly, not dismissed and ignored. There are numerous investigative leads that must be followed, despite Mr. Blanche's claim that there are none. Epstein and Maxwell did not abuse women and children alone. They did not build their operation alone. Others enabled these crimes, exploited victims, and avoided accountability for decades. You do not have to take my word for it. Several weeks ago, after examining the evidence, Chairman James Comer directed Todd Blanche to open investigations into 2 men connected to Epstein. The Epstein files are not merely a collection of embarrassing names and politically damaging associations. They are records connected to the sexual exploitation and trafficking of girls and young women. They contain information about how Epstein's network worked, who assisted him, and whether additional crimes can still be investigated. The Department of Justice should pursue every credible lead, not just work tirelessly, not just to shut down the investigations. The survivors in this room know there are investigative leads because they are our stories. Mr. Blanche knows it too, yet he has chosen not to pursue them. Mr. Blanche's actions have destroyed survivors' trust. According to public reporting, Mr. Blanche spent approximately 9 hours meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. He did not even spend 9 minutes meeting with a survivor.
Damn.
I mean,
Damn.
she just made...
Danny is remarkable, by the way. Incredible person, friend of the show, total patriot, so brave. I thought it was, I don't know about you guys. I got full body chills just now watching her. Like, remarkable. And I'm glad at least Tillis has put his foot down there to make sure that the survivors are heard. It's not enough. I hope Tillis does not vote for him and says, no, you needed to meet with them no matter what. It's not going to get you my vote. But they deserve to have what they have to say heard, because it appears when you listen to Todd Blanche, like he actually doesn't know what's in the Epstein files. And I don't think he does, guys. I'm not trying to give him a break. I think so many more of us know so much more about what's in those files because since they've been released, people have actually dug into them. People have actually said there are real crimes to be investigated here. And he doesn't know that because they just stopped. They stopped the investigation and put out the information. I think we know a lot more about them than even Todd Blanche knows now because he's not paying the attention.
Yeah, and to be fair, maybe they weren't in Pam Bondi's binder that was labeled the Epstein files. But yeah, no, jokes aside, absolutely. Danny's testimony was amazing. And I saw her wiping tears away when Senator Tillis said he was not going to vote Blanche out of committee until he agreed to meet with them. And so that obviously, even just that very tiny, simple act, makes her feel heard and validated. And she is amazing. So her testimony really gets to the heart of all of this, right? That this whole operation didn't happen in a vacuum, that Jeffrey Epstein relied on a network of people who recruited girls, who opened doors, who made introductions, and in some cases allegedly participated in the abuse themselves. And that is exactly what our next guest has been investigating when you talk about people who have been digging into this much more than our own Justice Department. Carly Riley has spent months not only reporting on Jeffrey Epstein, but on this broader network, parallel networks and possibly overlapping networks that surrounded him, particularly through one industry, and that's the international modeling industry. And Carly joins us now here live on Defiance. So Carly, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Sorry, Carly. I didn't mean to hit the drum just then. My
Are
producer
I didn't even notice.
He's soundboard drunk.
Take
He's been
that
out of
away.
control.
It's an entrance. I got an entrance. I'm flattered.
Carly,
I'm glad he didn't do like the crickets or like that would have been really bad, Miles. Yeah. So, Carly, thank you for being here. You know, you were waiting patiently for us backstage as we just continue to talk. But I'm just wondering, as you watch these hearings play out, as you watched yesterday's hearing with Todd Blanche himself, and then today with Danny Bensky and others, I mean, there were a whole group of survivors behind her. What do you think? Like, what do you make of this confirmation process? Is it going how you thought it would go so far?
Yeah, well, first of all, I totally agree with Miles earlier in terms of just being so moved by Danny's testimony. And I think she had several lines that just were, you know, the idea that he spent 9 hours with Ghislaine Maxwell, 9 minutes with the survivors.
Yeah.
She took real pains to emphasize that she's not political. She said, you know, 17-year-old me was not political. That's how old she was when she was recruited and abused by Epstein. I think emphasizing the bipartisan nature of this is so critical because this is one of the perhaps unique issues that is so bipartisan that, you know, we've seen members of the right being willing to go against Trump because of this issue. And so when you're talking about this Senate confirmation hearing, like this is a powerful vector, I think, to attack Blanche on, because Republican senators know this isn't popular among their bases either as an issue for Trump. So hearing her speak, I was so happy, and also happy that she's getting, you know, her voice out there. The thing with Blanche is it's so much worse than even him not having met with survivors. He said back in May, I think it was like a budget committee meeting, that he had met with survivors, which was a lie. And they came out and put out a statement saying, no, he hasn't met with us. But just the number of indignities that these survivors have faced, and it just keeps compounding. Like the saying he's met with them, that was a complete lie. Now, you know, maybe he's saying he finally will, lying about why he couldn't meet with them, saying, oh, well, I couldn't meet with them because lawyers, none of it being true at all. He can meet with them with their counsel. So it's frustrating. But I think it's a powerful way to attack him in this administration.
I'm just going to respond and then I'll let Miles go. But I agree with you. And I think it was really frustrating to see so many senators focus on other people on the panel, like our friend Liz Oyer today, instead of actually addressing the Epstein survivor right there at the witness table, and not addressing these inconsistencies and the lies that have been told around this.
It was bizarre. I mean, Hawley in particular struck me because you have you know, you have Danny address him directly, say, we met with your office, we found it valuable, we found it productive, and he gives this, you know, cursory thank you for being here, and now it's on to the next political thing. You know, it's not focused on her. I agree. It was disheartening.
Carly, can I ask you about, you know, if the Trump administration were ultimately held accountable for all the mishandling of the Epstein files, for the investigation that was dropped, which they will be. There's going to become an opportunity, and it may well be after the midterms, with Democrats retaking the House and maybe the Senate, that they reopen some of these investigations. In your coverage of this, in your research, what threads need to be pulled first? Is it the fumbling of the investigation itself, or are there pieces of the investigation they need to launch right back into? If you were saying to House Democrats who actually care about justice in this case, where do you tell them to start?
Such an interesting question. I think I would start with, well, first of all, you had Danny call them out today. He called them out in terms of names we've received recently: Frederick Fekkai, Philip Levine, who are two people who Frederick Fekkai looks to have very likely trafficked girls and women to Epstein under the guise of Epstein being a Victoria's Secret recruiter. You know, this was mentioned earlier, but this has really been my avenue of focus, because as I've dug into a lot of these files, what's become clear is you had really two primary arenas of attack by Epstein. You had the massage front, you're going to come and give this man a massage and you're going to make some money doing it. And that was a very more localized operation. You had it in Palm Beach, you had it with Galen going out recruiting girls in New York. But then you had this, the other vector was modeling and false promises of opportunities in the modeling world, opportunities in the modeling industry. Frederick Fakai has been named. Philip Levine, well, I guess he was the mayor in Miami, but you have Patrick Demarchelier, I'm pronouncing that right, who was a hairdresser. Again, you've got the fashion world. And there are Daniel Syed, Ramsey Al-Kholi, I could give you a number of names that you have probably never heard, who were modeling scouts, modeling agents, who were the primary ways in which Epstein was one of the primary ways Epstein was being served up women and girls from an international perspective. Not to deviate too far from your original question, but I'm here in France right now. I was at a courthouse yesterday with French attorneys who have just filed 6 new cases against a bigwig in the modeling agency, in the modeling world decades ago, Gerald Marie. But it's actually a way to start getting at some of Epstein's network as well. And that's a whole rabbit hole we could go down. But I say this to say, in terms of where I would have Democratic leadership focus, there are pathways to justice. There are other people who can be put in jail or tried first, of course, but I see it really as being through the modeling industry first and foremost. So I would start there, but also in parallel, find out what went wrong, because I think the American public's trust, we can't believe it. Like the level of, you don't even think we're stupid. You just don't care. You just don't even respect us enough. It doesn't matter. You just think we're powerless, right? That has done so much, I think, to erode even trust in future investigations, right? So I think you need to rebuild the trust so people even trust the investigations that are going on by telling us how the hell this didn't happen, frankly, decades ago, and simultaneously go after the avenues where there's clearly a there. And again, I know it because there are French lawyers going after it right now in Paris. So long-winded answer.
Carl, what you're referencing, I read about a bit in the article you and Katie Fang just published, which is called, I want to get the title right because it's great, how to really, in parentheses, bring down Jeffrey Epstein's network. You touched on it a bit, but I want to hear more about the implications of what you're finding in France and the connections that are being found. You mentioned, maybe it'll lead to trials. I imagine as a step before that, it'll at least lead to discovery and new understandings of what was going on, even beyond the people that are being individually tried here. Can you go a little deeper on what's happening in France and the implications?
Yeah, absolutely. So the headline, as I just said, is you had 6 new cases filed yesterday. Women who were abused, assaulted. It's rape and sex trafficking, actually, cases that were brought against a man named Gerald Marie, who, again, folks have probably never heard of. He was he was the European head of elite model management in the 80s and the 1990s. But the real, as I say, or there's an even bigger story here, which is this is an avenue by which to get to members of Epstein's network. So to give you an example, there's a man named Daniel Syed, who was a primary recruiter for Epstein. He's in the emails thousands of times. He doesn't get the press attention because it's not a name people know. But he was responsible for funneling many girls to Epstein over the years. And he also was a recruiter for this man, Gerald Marie. And you have one survivor, for example, who has claimed, and very credibly, of course, that she was raped by both Daniel Syed and by Gerald Marie. Now, this matters because the French judicial system has some judicial pathways for justice that are different than what we have in the United States. So specifically, the survivors here have filed a case to go in front of a juge d'instruction. Pardon my French.
Well done. I thought you nailed it.
Well done. Beautiful.
And this role doesn't exist in United States judicial systems, but it's a judge who also can act as a prosecutor. His role is basically to run an investigation. It was actually this system that brought down Nicolas Sarkozy, the former president of France, after he was out of office. But because this role is intended to tackle power structures, it exists outside of the normal hierarchy in the French judicial system. So it's really built for a case like networks of powerful people who have been operating with impunity. And so through this individual, these cases that have been filed against Gerald Marie, this juge d'instruction. I have a French tutor.
You got it. You got it. We're with you. You're doing better than I would. It's all good.
Definitely doing better than Xander.
Yeah. Sounds like that might be a low bar, but I'll take it nevertheless.
Shots fired everywhere for some reason. All right, go ahead.
In any case, he can expand this investigation beyond just Gerald Marie, because this is part of what his role becomes, and look at the other individuals who were a part of this whole system, which includes men like Daniel Syed, who, like I say, was one of the primary recruiters for Jeffrey Epstein. And I'll wrap up my, again, sort of long-winded piece here by saying one of the goals for the attorneys who are working on this is to charge Ghislaine Maxwell, who was born in France, who has a French passport, who is eligible to be charged under French law. And they would like to see her tried here in France as well, which is interesting to say the least. I can say more on to your point about discovery, et cetera, but I will pause there.
I think there's so many good points there. And I want to ask you a couple of questions. I mean, first of all, for people who don't realize, I mean, the time period you're talking about was just, I mean, modeling and that whole industry was such a huge part of our culture, right? In the 80s and 90s. I mean, so huge. And at the same time, I'm thinking, as you're talking about statute of limitations and also jurisdiction with this special investigative judge. So, I mean, as we know, like you mentioned, the famed photographer Patrick de Marchelier, and he's dead. So what does that look like? Is there a statute of limitations, first of all? And does this judge have jurisdiction to expand this? Because so many people have been saying throughout this, hey, listen, if we don't get it right in the US, it doesn't mean other countries cannot investigate.
Yeah. So to the statute of limitations question, this has been a big deal because unfortunately there had been a number of survivors who came forward were past the statute of limitations. The way it works in France is if you were abused as a minor, you have 30 years after your 18th birthday to file. And if you were abused 18 or older, you have 20 years from the time of abuse to file. And so that became an obstacle for some of the women who were abused in the late 80s or early 90s in some cases. And in fact, there are several women who filed cases yesterday who had previously filed cases actually in 2020, 2021, whose cases were dismissed for being time barred. However, here's again something interesting about this avenue with the juge d'instruction. With just one survivor who is not time barred, it makes all of the rest of their stories and their testimony relevant, because again, this judge is looking to understand a broader network. It's not just about one individual's case. In this, you'd have to have multiple individuals filed, but they have all filed. So we now have a survivor who is not time barred, who is still within the statute of limitations, which is why part of why yesterday's filings are bigger news than I think people realize, because this really does open up the potential for this full investigation. And I want to couch it all in the French justice system moves slow. It is not the magic silver bullet where like, well, everything's perfect in France. Like I could tell you stories about similar oddities of obstruction, justice seemingly having been obscured or investigations being slow rolled around Epstein. There's investigations. There's a lot, as always, with this story. But there's a real path here. So 6 months, hopefully, there'll be a judge, an investigative judge, we'll call him or her, assigned to this. But in the meantime, more survivors can join the case, can strengthen the case. And that's part of what this is about as well, because there are so many survivors of the modeling industry in general, which in some ways is what we're talking about here.
Right.
And
I do have to say it's heartening that even if the Trump Justice Department has abandoned this, which they have, that all of the other investigations that are happening around the world are keeping the ball moving forward. And as you note, the inquiries in France, in the UK, elsewhere may open up additional investigative possibilities. They may open up information that implicates people here in the United States and makes it impossible for a future Justice Department to decline to pursue criminal charges against some of these culprits. So that to me is the silver lining here. It's not like the Trump administration has the ability to make this go away forever. They're delaying things. They're still sitting on crucial information, but they cannot make it go away forever.
It's 100% true. And I think that to the point you made earlier, Xander, of just even discovery, that more information coming out keeps attention on this story. And I think the sense of forward progress will reignite attention on this story, because people, of course, it's in the ether. People are still thinking about it, but a lot of people have lost faith, I think. And I think the sense that there is something that is moving and there is potentially justice to be had here also is reanimating for folks and will hopefully up the pressure on the United States. To the point earlier about the international scope, there are challenges with jurisdiction in terms of there were a number of French perpetrators. Daniel Sayed, who I mentioned being a primary recruiter for Epstein, is a French national. Jean-Luc Brunel, who is dead, died by hanging in his jail cell.
Yeah. They seem to do that.
Weird how that keeps happening. He was in a Parisian prison. He was awaiting trial for sex trafficking and rape as being a co-conspirator with Epstein. And so there are a number, France in particular is well placed to do this, because there are a number of French individuals who were a part of this network. Again, not coincidentally, because there's a lot of fashion activity and modeling activity that runs through Paris. I mean, I published this piece today with Katie Fang, who, does a lot of work in South Florida. And we've really been saying, Paris, South Florida, New York were the three critical arenas for this particular, international trafficking, mostly of girls and women from Eastern Europe, but also Brazil, from girls and women who are not from those countries.
Well, Carly, you're doing, dare I say, heroic work with your journalism. For those who aren't following you already, before we let you go, where can they hear more from you?
Carly P. Riley on YouTube. I think also if you search that on Substack, it should pull me up. Read Receipts On is the name of my specific newsletter, but searching my name should get you what you need on YouTube or Substack.
That was so validating. I have had this debate with my best friend of if it's called Read Receipts or Read Receipts. So thank you, because I'm on.
Can you say read?
I'm on team Read Receipts. So thank you, Carly.
Receipts.
I am sending her this.
Read Receipts, I get why that would make sense. You've already read it, but it sounds weird.
Agreed. All right.
That is
the important things being
of
settled.
the visible spectrum of light just before orange. Don't give me that confusion. Carly, I hope folks do follow you. You are doing an enormous public service.
Yes.
Thank you for everything.
As are you all. Thank you very much for what you are doing.
We're going to have you back here soon.
I hope so. I think we have a shared inclination towards action orientation. Like I am so focused on this because it feels like there's a result potentially to come from this.
Amazing.
I'm so grateful for y'all's focus on that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Carly. All right. So gang, other than Carly, we were going to find out who else has joined the Defiance today, as we do at the end of every
Carly's in it. I think she's been in it for. I don't think she just joined. I think
she didn't just join.
But
she might have had some stripes.
But
she
who
might have
just joined, Xander? Because there is an unexpected addition to the club.
Well, today we have an unlikely member, as Miles mentioned, poking out their little head to join us. That's a hot start. All right. Idaho, a historically conservative state, finally pushed back against Trump in a letter to the DOJ, calling them out on their BS request for voter rolls in an attempt to undermine this coming election. This note had to have won an award for most passive-aggressive public official talk, as the Idaho Attorney General's office put belt to DOJ's ass, addressing their lawsuits against Secretary McGrain after he did not provide them with Idaho's complete voter registration list. The letter reiterated that their lawsuit was not taken well and that their voter rolls list had been checked thoroughly and none of the occupants were ineligible to vote, asking Trump to then leave them the hell alone. They conclude the message with asking the DOJ to stop threatening their friends in Idaho and quite literally hit them with I need space talk, requesting they cease communication with them immediately. Boom. Mic drop. Miles, do you have a mic drop sound effect? What does that sound like?
Yeah,
You got
let's
anything
hear
over
it.
there? Get to the soundboard. Hit us with something.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a lot of pressure. No, I just have that
Sorry.
trombone and some crickets and some applause.
Right.
Anyway,
we got to get your mastery of the soundboard over the weekend. Maritza, what's on your mind?
Well, I mean, okay, I'm Idaho's neighbor. I live in Idaho's neighbor to the east, and I will tell you this: people
what's your
say
flag? I'm neighbors with Idaho.
I'm neighbors. Like it's an hour drive from my house. Here's the thing: like they get kooky. They get kooky over there in Idaho for sure. But I do know this about Idaho and Montana: there is a very fierce libertarian streak here, folks. So I'm not entirely surprised by this. Like as loyal as they are to this president, to be like, "Hey, man, get off my lawn."
Yeah, before we had the MAGA cult, there was strong "leave me the hell alone" energy in this country and these communities. And I think for a while, part of the partnership was people thought Trump was a avenue to being left alone. And now they're saying it's quite the opposite, as we've mentioned here a bunch of times. Trump actually wants to have a tighter grip on people's rights. He wants to ignore state sovereignty and police their cities. And so I think as that becomes more and more clear, these partnerships with these like traditionally libertarian bases is going to crumble.
Xander, you're compelling and thoughtful and substantive points distracted from the great graphic we had on the screen.
Sorry, go bring it back.
There we go. I feel bad for the people who listen to us audio only because they don't get to see the children's book cover, The Little Idaho That Could, with Donald Trump getting railroaded by the state of Idaho. That's a good one. Man.
That little Idaho is so happy. You guys want to know a fun
I would read
fact?
that to my daughter. I would read her that book. Sorry, go ahead, Maritza.
Well, I'll just be a huge nerd. Wait, we need to keep it up, Mercedes. I'm sorry. Do you see the outline of Idaho, the Montana part? That's actually Richard Nixon's profile. If you can see that in the.
Oh wow!
Really?
I love those like small town, hometown facts. You know,
weird facts.
You know, it's like people from Michigan being like, "This is Michigan." You're like, "Is it though?" That's just your hand.
Is it? Yeah, this is Michigan, and I live up here. That's what people always say.
Yeah, but what about the Upper Peninsula? What do they do with that?
Well, then they say Uper.
Yeah. That leads us into our next segment, small town facts. we just discussed weird fact dropping for the next hour. No, we are coming back though, Miles, right? Usually this is part where we sign off for the evening. We're not going to do that this evening.
I literally don't know if either of you are joining. Are either of you guys going to join me tonight for this live stream? Or both of you?
I'm playing.
Don't mind us. We just co-host with you here. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry about us.
This is how it played out, folks. We were on a team call the other day, and I was like, "F that. We're not going to listen to Donald Trump just spew BS about the election. I know 10 times as much as he does about election security because he depended on me to do things related to election security during his first administration." I said, "No, we're going to stream while he is on. We're going to stream when Trump is talking. We'll listen to little bits because we have to know what he's saying if we're going to detonate the lies." And so, yeah, tune in tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to fact check Donald Trump live. I hope Maritza will join. I hope Xander will join. I think we've got a slew of special guests walking in. My producer wants to throw me off of a roof because I've been sitting here and I've been launching out text messages to folks that I want to drop in and surprise us. I think I've been sending them the correct link. I hope I can send them all the same link. That's what I've been doing, Mercedes.
We're slowly creating, by the way, Miles.
It's going to be a free-for-all. Go ahead, Zane.
We're slowly creating a public reputation where Mercedes is like a terror. Maritza started out the episode saying she was scared of the implications of going off script.
She's an awesome
Mercedes is like the nicest person.
She keeps the wheels on the wagon. I also, when I was just on with our friend Nicole Wallace, I told America, come join us 9 p.m. Eastern. And while I was sitting there live, I put up a banner on our website to allow folks to click through to join us. If you go to defiance.org, well, it just links back to defiance.news where we stream this. But hopefully we're going to have a whole bunch of folks join us tonight because you shouldn't watch Donald Trump alone. Friends don't let friends watch Donald Trump alone.
Did you invite John Tester?
Come watch the fact check. No, but text him the link.
Come on.
The link.
We're gonna get a Brady.
Put the link in the chat. No, I'm just kidding. Let anyone join as a guest.
Do we have the Brady Bunch filter for 9 tiles, Mercedes? Is that an option here on our video streaming service?
Yeah,
so that's what we're going for.
Do we have how many people can we have in Mercedes? Can you, voice of God, tell us? I don't know how many we can put in at
it's the max.
People are worried about us playing the whole time. I agree, it is madness, but as long as we are fact checking, I mean, that's the key piece to this, right? You can't just
no. Okay, hey, people who are worried, it's going to make it into the news anyway. Please don't worry about Defiance Daily being the thing that's going to platform Donald Trump. If you think for a fucking second there's like millions of like independent voters who are going to accidentally wander into the room who wouldn't see the news, it's not going to happen. Okay, please dial down the temperature. Do not worry about us having him on. You can't fact check someone if you can't hear what they're saying. I know, I wish too we could totally snuff out what he's saying. We can't.
And here's the thing.
All of the networks, all of the big networks are refusing to air it tonight. It won't be on NBC. It won't be on ABC. I'm pretty sure CBS is going to follow suit. They're all putting it on their digital platforms, but the news will get out there. I'm going to tell you, my Defiance friends, the reason we're going to put his face on there. First, I need to hear what he has to say to be able to dunk on him. I've got to be able to fact check him. There are few people as capable of fact checking him on this issue than the people who worked for him on this issue. All right. So that's why you don't have to join me if you don't want to, but that's why we're going to put his face on there. We're going to talk over him. We're going to listen to bits. We're going to mock him, but then he's going to go away because then we need to talk about what just happened, why it's absurd. And frankly, I'm going to enjoy watching him embarrass himself. He is walking into a buzzsaw of embarrassment, and we're going to make sure he does not forget. This is a cell phone of epic proportions.
And it's going to help you when your family members and friends try to say to you, oh, well, he said this and this is the proof. We are going to help you come up with the talking points to shut it down, because it's really great to shut things down with facts. It would be nice that people are saying we should put helium voice on, but what if we could do like one of those?
I've got that.
What if we could do like a Snapchat cat filter, like that one judge?
And I've got some election lies for you today.
That's fantastic. That might also
Can we do this?
Some documents.
Can you figure this out between now and then? This is your assignment. This is your homework. Figure out how to do that.
Very funny.
Right, let's do it.
We could
Let's make it happen.
I don't know. Maybe I think we could route it through my little switchboard here. And that's a really, who in the chat said that? We got to give that person credit. Who was that?
A couple people said
Who
it.
said that? That was a great.
I mean, everyone is allergic to his voice. There's been a lot of I don't want to hear his voice.
Hard to do, but maybe not that hard. Or I could do the monster voice.
This is Donald Trump.
Oh, that's worse. That's worse. That's much worse. I don't like it.
Yeah, that gives him credit. He wants to sound like that. No.
Yeah. Let's not do that. All right, Miles, sign us out. We're gonna be back here in 3 hours.
Sanders
say goodbye.
Like, get out of here.
Sanders like, please get me out of here. I can do something now too. Yeah, see, Mercedes like that. Listen, folks. You don't have to stay up late to watch us. We'll repost this if you want to see us fact check Donald Trump. I think we have a whole host of different folks who are going to drop in at random times. I don't even know how we're going to manage this live stream, but it's important. I genuinely think it's very important for us to go out there and just show that the emperor has no clothes. You don't want to think about Donald Trump naked. You don't want to see Donald Trump naked, but metaphorically, we're going to show you him naked tonight. I hope you will join us at 9 p.m. Eastern. Otherwise, join us as we always are live, 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Fridays on Defiance Daily, it's a little bit more irreverent. You're probably thinking, more irreverent than this? We talk about the MAGA losses of the week. We award the Donald J. Trump Soulmate Award. And we are going to have a special guest with us tomorrow. The incredible Barbara Starr, Pentagon correspondent, formerly of CNN, will be with us. We'll have the latest on the never-ending Iran war, and also what we are doing about it, what you can do about it, how we can all defy Donald Trump's corruption. So join us tomorrow. In the meantime, friends, stay loud, stay brave, and stay together. Thanks for being with us.